Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Danielle, and in this video I will talk about how to set up an online classroom. In other words, the background to the room where you'll be doing your online teaching. So you might be somebody who's new to online teaching and needs some tips. You might be somebody who's been doing it for a while but you want to up your game, or maybe you're used to teaching in a physical classroom and now you have to do online classes for your students and you want to get some ideas on how to make this work for you. So a little bit of background about me. I've been teaching online for 4.5 years. I like the job because normally I can travel and work at the same time because I love it. I love traveling. So I've taught from this location and many hotel rooms, many Airbnbs. I've also lived abroad and had to set up different apartments. So I have some experience doing this many times in many different kinds of settings. For today, obviously, I'll be talking specifically about this room, but giving you guidance that you can apply in other spaces as well. So the reason I picked this room in this house is because of its location. It seems to be a good place that's not likely to be disruptive to other people in the house, and other people in the house aren't likely to be disruptive to me while I'm in this room. It's down the hall from rooms that get a lot more activity, so I'm not likely to hear, say, people walking around or talking. I'm not likely to hear a TV from the next room come on. That's really important. The other important thing is while I'm working in here, I'm not likely to disrupt anybody. So most of the students I teach are in East Asia. So I'm in New Jersey right now. Their schedule is opposite to ours. So I'll be teaching late at night or early in the morning. I'm not likely to wake up anybody while I'm teaching because they're down the hall. This room is actually my brother's old bedroom from when I was growing up. So because of COVID, I am staying with my parents. I came to visit at the end of February of 2020 and have been stuck here since then. So I have been using his old bedroom as my online classroom. It's worked out really well this whole time. Obviously in your own home, you can choose whatever room makes the most sense to you. The other thing I like about this room is that we don't use it for many things. So when I set everything up for teaching, I can just leave it to go. I don't have to take any stuff away so somebody else can use the desk, or, nobody's gonna mess with my setup in the room that gets in the shot. I can just leave it as is. It works out great. So that's why I picked this room and why I think it's important to put some consideration into which room you're going to be teaching from. Okay, the other thing to think about is, does the room have everything you need? Usually you just need a desk and that's great. The other thing I like about this room though is that in the room right next door is where we have the Wi-Fi router. So I tend to have a really strong, steady signal right here. And that makes the flow of my work go much more smoothly. I don't ever have interruptions really when it comes to my internet signal. Okay. Next, I'm gonna spend the most time talking about the setup in the room and the decorations in the room. So the furniture that you can see in this shot was already in this room, already in the place that it was in when I showed up. So I didn't have to buy any furniture or rearrange any furniture in the room. I just made what was here work for me. That might be the case for you as well, but I'll talk through how I framed myself in the shot to help you think if the way you have things set up makes sense for you. So first we have this desk thing. It's a desk with some drawers underneath, and then it has shelves above it. And then over here, I have a bookcase. And then obviously right in front of me, I have a desk. All of this furniture was here already, and most of it is old. I think This piece came from my grandparents when they moved out of their house and into a condo. And it's probably from like the 1950s or 1960s. Like, I'm sure some designer would be able to be like, that's a blah 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 from blah 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 time. Okay, and then over here we have the bookcase that was probably purchased in the 1990s. And then the desk I'm using must be at least 25 years old, I would say. Everything is sufficient. Everything works fine. The most important thing is that it looks okay and it serves its function well, and work with what you have. You don't have to go out and buy stuff just for this. If you actually do need something, you can get it secondhand. It's going to be way cheaper and I'm sure much better for the environment. So, don't overthink it. Keep it simple. The other thing I really like about this setup is right behind me. I'll turn my chair so you can see better. I have a plain wall besides that border. This was my brother's bedroom and it was like designed for an 8-year-old at the time. So this plain wall works well. The reason I left it plain is because it really doesn't need anything on it. I did think about maybe putting a picture up here, but I decided against it because 1, it's simpler to do nothing. And then 2, you want to be the focus in the video. Even though you might have some stuff in the shot, you still want to be the focus. So I didn't want to put like a picture above my head that might draw attention from my face. I want the student focused on me. So that's why I left it empty like that. Okay, next I want to talk about the decorations that I picked out for the shelves and the bookcase. So I use 3 guiding principles to decide what decorations to pick out. They are: 1, it has to be appropriate for the students I'm teaching. 2, it needs to be big enough to be seen at the distance it is from the camera. And 3, it needs enough of a color contrast to be seen where it is located. Okay, I will get more specific. 1, is it appropriate? So I teach kids usually between the ages of 4 and 15. So I have to think, if a 4-year-old looked at that, would it be okay? If a 15-year-old looked at that, would it be okay? The other thing is I think about, who do I tend to teach? I tend to teach kids on the older end of that spectrum. So I veered more for what's going to make a teenager or a preteen more comfortable than what's going to make a 4 or 5-year-old more comfortable. I think I am okay with the 4 and the 5-year-olds, but this is, for my taste, a bit of an older kid I'm going for here. You think about who your students are, what appeals to that age group, especially if it's adults, then you have way more playing room to work with. But for me, I'm going more for like 9 to 13 with this, and I think I'm okay with that. Okay, so I think I can check the box for appropriate for the age. So the second consideration I have is, are these decorations big enough to be seen at the distance from the camera? So where this camera is located is about where my laptop's camera would be. So you're getting a very similar frame as what my students would see. I believe you should be able to see a globe, a welcome sign, a photograph, a statue of an owl, a snowflake, books, a picture, a sparkly tree, a stuffed animal monkey, a snowball ornament, and a candle. And then my mom has her shoeboxes underneath the desk. No one's ever complained about the shoeboxes. Okay, so the reason I picked these things out is because you should be able to see them from where the camera is. and have a good enough idea of what it is. You shouldn't be left wondering, what is that? Right? You should just know. Okay? There are a few details I'll give about these items. For example, when I first bought the welcome sign, it was black and you couldn't see it. It was certainly big enough to be seen, but because it was black, and this is going into the third element of color contrast, I decided to paint it white so it was visible. Now everyone can see and read it. That picture on that higher shelf, you don't need to see what's in the picture. You just know it's a picture and it creates a nice, warm, homey vibe, right? So that's good enough for me. The owl statue, sometimes I think with the camera quality on my laptop and how strong the lighting is, it's not totally clear that it's an owl, but it's still clear that I have a statue, and that's good enough for me. But sometimes they can tell it's an owl if we're even paying attention to it, which most of the time we're not. The snowflake is a big, bold design. The books, we know they're books. We don't need to know the titles. That's not important. The idea of it being a book is enough to set that feeling of we're here to learn. And then we've got this picture down here. Again, we don't need to know what's in it, but I picked this one as opposed to something else because it was white and that color contrast was strong. We have the sparkly tree, that plus the snowflake are there to signify it's winter. I will switch out a few of these decorations seasonally just to give it a fresh look, a little bit of an update. I think the parents really like it. You know, little touches like that can make the parents feel like the teacher really cares, the teacher's being thoughtful. It seems like such a small thing, and it really is, but it actually can mean a lot to some people. And for anybody who thinks, oh, it's just decoration, what's the big deal? It actually does mean a lot to some people. So, you know, it's up to you if you want to invest the energy into it or not. But from my perspective, I would say people tend to notice small touches. Some people do. And if you're teaching a high volume of students, you know, some parents might recognize that and some students might recognize that and just like it. Okay. The stuffed animal monkey, I had that from growing up. It works well in the space. If you don't recognize it's a monkey, you at least recognize it's a stuffed animal. That tends to work well with the little kids. Snowball, I just wanted color contrast. In the candle, I like burning a candle as I'm teaching. It adds an accent light in the back of the room, which I like. It's not necessary, but I like it, and I also like the smell of it. It's like a little ritual every time I start teaching. I come in and I light the candle. It's my little thing, one of my little things. And then over here, I've got the bookcase. Again, we don't need to know what the titles are. The fact that I have a bookcase full of books is probably sending a good message for someone who's trying to teach people something. And then, I don't know if you can see it in the shot, but I do have another chair with a throw over. That's because it can get cold in this room and sometimes I need it, but it also gives it a more, I guess, put together look than if it didn't have it on there. So those are my three big things in terms of picking out decor. Is it appropriate for the room and for the student? Is it big enough to be seen? Because we don't want them to wonder. We want them to just get it. And is there enough color contrast that it's even visible where it's located? And like I was saying before, you still want yourself to be the focus. So these things that I have around me are just playing a supporting role for me to be the focal point. If I am not the focal point and something in the room becomes the focal point, that would be a failure on my part to think about the setting. As a side note, I think of this as like a theater professional might think of it, or somebody working in TV or film might think of it. This is my set, and I am the actor. I am the performer. So my set is meant to support me in doing my role. It is not meant to pull focus away from me. It is meant to enhance me. So in that sense, in that thinking, you might want to first vie for a simple background or plain background, and then bring elements into it to support you as needed, as opposed to overdoing it and having a room that looks really busy and distracting. It's better to have less than more, but if you know how to work with more, it really can work to your advantage. So be smart with how you set up the room, but also you don't need to like overthink it. You don't need to overinvest and spend a lot of money. If that's your thing and you want to, go for it, but it doesn't need to work that way. One final note I'll make about, is it even appropriate for the students to see all this stuff in the room? Should it be plain, or should it be something specially designed for what you're teaching? I'm gonna say it's totally fine for the kids and their families to see some of your home. The reason is they're curious about it. They do want to see where you live, how you decorate, that kind of stuff. Even if they're not consciously aware of it, people just have that kind of voyeur curiosity thing going on. So don't underestimate or don't feel shy about having some of your home on view, because people really do want to know for the most part. But if you do want to take time to make something really special, like let's say you're a chemistry teacher and you want to have like the periodic table up, and you want to have like all kinds of cool lab equipment going on behind you that sets the tone for chemistry, as long as it works to set that tone and it supports what you're doing without distracting students, that's super cool and you should go for it. Yeah, I would not get in the way of that at all. You have fun with it if that's what you want to do. It's just, to me, it's not totally necessary. So you don't need to worry like that you have to go big for this. You can just make it you and feel comfortable that what you're showing to the world or to your students looks good, looks professional, sets the right tone, and supports you in doing your job effectively so that they learn. Okay, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, you can leave it in the comments, or if you've tried different things or tried some of these things and you want to let me know how that went, please leave it in the comment. If you found this helpful, you can hit the like button, and you can always subscribe to get similar videos to this. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.